I know it's more serious, but I still want to giggle.
I still kind of want to dance at the end too. So welcome to Getting to Unstuck. And in case you're wondering what that was, it wasn't your, whatever you're on, wasn't on the fritz. That was actually Morse code for SOS. Because we have been thinking and talking a lot about what it means when we're setting up a flare and we need to either have some intervention or we're looking for help in some way. And essentially, we're looking to get unstuck. And so today on the show, we're going to be talking about gaslighting versus real leadership. But before we get there, we just want to say thank you for joining us today. If you are coming in live, we're glad you're here. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and we will be watching for them. If you are listening to us after this is being recorded, if you're driving, you're walking, you're running, you're doing dishes, whatever it is, if you enjoy the show, please remember to like and subscribe and to follow us on YouTube, but also over on LinkedIn as we're also posting there. And we're engaging with people in that space as well. So let's talk. Good morning, Carol and Colin. Sorry.
Hey, good morning.
Hello. Hello from Mexico City. Let's talk about gaslighting, because gaslighting is easy to get into and it's easy to use on others, which is really what we're going to be talking about today. So we've probably all done it. We've all experienced it for sure. But gaslighting doesn't instill trust in our teams. It doesn't make people feel safe, and it doesn't build the kind of culture that we want. So we're going to be shining the light on gaslighting today. And Colin, I saw that there was something that was just floating by the screen as I was talking. And do you want to help us understand a little bit about where that came from?
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea to define what we're talking about, in at least in this instance. And gaslighting is really a form of psychological manipulation. And I think a lot of it happens, not subliminally, that's the wrong word, but we don't even know it.
Yeah.
That we don't know it from the receiving end, and we might not know it from the giving end. It's not giving really, is it? It's like from the perpetrator side.
Yeah.
But it's huge, right? Like if you look at the data and the numbers, both in North America and in Canada, the people looking up gaslighting has gone up tremendously at 1,740%.
Like Google searching or whatever.
Yeah, Google searching and
wow,
so that's going up. And if you look at just the workforce in the United States in the sort of 18 to 55-year-old range, more than half of the people have experienced it, right? And in Canada, it's pretty close. It's not much less. I mean, 30-40% have experienced gaslighting, right? So not constructive, it's destructive. So let's dive into how you recognize it. And how you push back, right?
Yeah.
And I think there are two sides to it, as you described, Colin. There is the person who is doing the gaslighting and the person who has received it. And what I appreciate is that the person who has received it may have looked it up. Maybe we're talking about this now. And as much as anything, that's the first important step. What used to be assumed as normal in a relationship, in a job situation, is no longer accepted as just standard. This is how we do business, which is part of what I love about our conversations, is that we're poking into that. We're provoking it. This is how it's done. This is no longer okay for anyone to be experiencing in the workplace, having those doubts continuously sewed into their lives, so that you walk away thinking, I mean, the risk of it is you walk away thinking that you're crazy.
Yeah.
Anxiety inducing at the very least.
I mean, anxiety and depression, PTSD. A lot of people aren't aware that it can really trigger people. There's a whole bunch of symptoms that come up, and often those are symptoms that we keep inside, right? We keep to ourselves. We let it fester. We don't verbalize, right, what what might have just taken place.
Yeah.
So I think this is an important conversation because it's not so obvious, right? It can be so subtle.
It can be so subtle. And I think that it plays on, for me, when I think about when I have been gaslit, it's one of the things that I have been left with, and that I hear other people say, is there's like a confusion. Like, did I imagine that? Or am I overreacting? Am I the problem? Because I think as people who are seeking to show up better in the world, like us, but also the people that are listening right now, that is, our automatic default is, I want to do better. So while that serves us in so many ways, that can also be used against us and almost weaponized against us in gaslighting. So I think it's really important for us to first acknowledge and understand, and help people that are listening understand some of the ways, even as we're talking right now, you may be thinking of times where you're like, yeah, you know what, maybe it's possible that was gaslighting. So I'm wondering, Carol, you had brought up some of the ways that we can recognize gaslighting, and I'm hoping we can go through those first and talk about how those show up.
Let's do that, because part of what I was reading about, what I looked at it from two different perspectives. There's a lot of information written about the person who's receiving the gaslighting and how to recognize it. But I also thought about the idea that some of us may be doing this without ill intent, because we're just not really adept at being a leader, or we find ourselves in a really tough situation. So there's three ways that we could, as leaders, unintentionally be gaslighting. One of them is described bait and switch. So what that looks like is that you get praise for what you've been doing. You get a lot of acknowledgement for a project that you worked on. And then the next time that there's a promotion, your boss just passes you right over. So it feels a little like, oh, what was that? Was that authentic? Did you really mean it? Or were you just were you gaslighting me? And as a leader, we may be wanting to give acknowledgement and to give praise to the people we work with. And we may not realize that if we pass them over, what's going to happen to them internally. Another one is that we often, in our fast-paced workplaces, change roles or expectations like that. And if you're in charge and you're doing it on a daily basis, you may think, I just keep up. But the experience of people who get that kind of wait a minute, we didn't do that yesterday, is that they begin to feel like there's something wrong with them. And that is what you pointed to, Christal. That's what really is the harsh reality of gaslighting, is that someone is left thinking there's something wrong with me.
The lesser than sense that everybody else has got it but you.
I mean, it's that, and also I think just to add one little piece, that you think you might be doing good, right?
Interesting.
And if there's no reciprocity on all the praise that you were just speaking about, Carol, you might have had the greatest intentions, but the end game has not been received well. And so I think awareness is really important, because
do you mean as a leader, Colin, or as the person receiving it?
As the leader. So if I'm a leader and I come into a situation and you get a great review and performance review, and you've used coaching methodology, and it's all, you've ticked all the boxes, and yet the person who is at the receiving end might have some expectations that are different than yours. So I think it's important to finish the sentence. Finish the conversation. Make sure the circle is closed. Right,
exactly, because we do have when we have open loops in our thinking, what happens is we never quite settle into something until that loop is closed for us. So it puts our systems on defensive mode. So if you find that people are defensive if you're leading them. There's a concept that I love called clean language. And we've talked about this here, that we learned the phrase from one of our clients that we work with.
Oh, yes.
Clear is kind. And as we've been talking about this, I'm like, wow, clear is kind. When you are clear with someone about what to expect, or if you don't know, even if you're clear about the fact that you don't know, you're clear about the fact that you're the one that's taking responsibility, that you're going to be accountable. That's one of the ways that you can cut through the temptation, because you will be tempted. I think as leaders, we are tempted to gaslight. Like, let's be honest. Like, it's tempting to want to save your own skin in situations where if you're in a work setting where you don't feel safe to begin with, the temptation for you is going to be to look out for number one.
Yeah. And that's very true. Those two things, I think, could be done somewhat innocently. I don't know that bait and switch is really malicious, or that changing roles and expectations is intended to be cruel. But there's a third aspect of gaslighting that I think is really insidious in the workplace, and that's minimization and denial. And I think when a leader does not truly listen to what is being said to them, or dismisses it, or makes it feel like it's unimportant, that aspect of gaslighting is where we have the most impact on people, because you feel completely unheard as someone who's brought something up, and you may feel at risk, particularly if what you're bringing up is something around diversity and equity.
Exactly.
Because in that case, then that is a standard route. Oh, don't be so sensitive. What are you talking about? He didn't really mean that. You know, we go that route. And I think this is one where we cannot apologize for gaslighting. It's not acceptable.
No, it's not. And, you know, in the work of diversity, equity, inclusion, it's that's kind of a flattened phrase, I know, but just in the work of complete, of being whole, right, and having a whole approach, we talk so much about safe spaces, but we don't so much talk about accountable spaces. So as if putting the onus back on the person that is needing to feel safe to somehow, if they don't feel safe, it's their problem, right? Rather than everybody holding themselves accountable to whether they're actually nurturing a safe, accountable space for everybody. And gaslighting gets in the way of that. And again, it may not even be intentional, but it doesn't make it any less insidious and destructive, to be quite honest.
So I wonder, if you're someone who's listening, who has experienced gaslighting, what I'm wondering is how we might, and this is just open dialogue because we had not prepared this, how we might advise people to approach it. So what do you think, Colin? If my boss has been gaslighting me, what should I do about it?
That's a great question. I mean, it's tough, right? Because I think it's a bit of a balancing act, right? Because you don't want to create more problems by bringing it up. But I think I don't know the answer. I'm stumped.
Yeah, and the term
I'm probably the word, like I'm stumped. I don't know what do you do? Because you don't want to look like I'm sure a lot of people don't want to look like they're narking on somebody or they're snitching on somebody, and you know, it's a subtle thing, right? I think you can go to HR and go to your leaders and go to the people that are responsible for these sorts of things when it's much more obvious, right? So this is one of those insidious elements of the workforce that's really, I think it's really hard to see it and name it and classify it and quantify it and be able to go to somebody and go, this is happening to me. Because I think a lot of times people get brushed off, right? Oh, come on. Like, it was just a joke. It was just, you know, it was you know, unintentional, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And
that
I
is,
don't think yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
Colin. Oh, and that to say that is to continue to gaslight. So to say, because when we're called to account and we put it back on someone, we're saying they're the problem.
Yes.
And, I would say that for me, having a teenage daughter, she's 18, who is, has no problems calling me on things where she's pointed out ways that I have not been clear or whatever. And that, she's like, you're putting that back on me. And I'm like, and I've actually had to say recently to her, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. You're right. I didn't deal with that properly. Let me try that again.
Right.
So personally, from my perspective, when I have been gaslit, I have had both good outcomes and I've had really negative outcomes. So let's just be honest about the fact that when you're calling out someone for it, it may not go the way that you want.
Yeah.
And it comes down to, I think it comes down to what's important to you in your workplace too, right?
So I think there is a self-preservation aspect to it, which is what I do want to make sure that people do take care of themselves. But there's also an opportunity, and maybe the term gaslighting is not necessarily what you want to lead with. You might want to say, I feel like there's a miscommunication.
Yes.
You may want to go in and say, may I be vulnerable? I'm feeling like there's something off here. And can we talk about what it feels like?
Yeah.
I tend to err, and I know people sometimes call me on it, on that people are doing the best that they can in the moment. So while there are sociopathic leaders out there, most leaders are trying to do their best. And if someone came to me as a leader and said, this just doesn't feel right, I would hope that I had the room to be able to hear, okay, well, what is it? What is it that how am I being that is having you experience it this way?
Yeah. I think also we have to be honest and say that there are times when racism and prejudice plays into it in the workplace, and people may not feel safe to try to call someone to account on something, or there may be issues of the power, the imbalance of who's holding the power in the conversation. I think a couple things are to, like anything, like clear is kind, be kind to yourself and to the other person, don't muddy the waters when you're talking about a situation. So don't pull in all these other things that it may trigger off a whole bunch of a chain reaction in us, but don't go too far down the road because you want to deal with that issue at hand. So for example, when this was done, here's how I felt. This is what I felt, and then giving the person an opportunity to be able to own it. They may try to protect themselves and their ego and try to flip the script, but you are starting off and just pulling back to that issue at hand. Don't muddy it. Don't try to let things get layered on, because that was one of the things that we talked about earlier, like a bait and switch or minimize it. No, just keep to the issue at hand. The second thing I would say is to realize that you are not alone. So if you're feeling that, you're not crazy, but that you also have the opportunity to think about who are your support systems, who are your allies, where do you feel safe? And someone, let's
we got a couple of comments here. So I think this is really important it does assume good intent, right? So
great place to begin from if we do that. And thank you, Dar, for that comment, because it really is. If we start there rather than, oh, my boss is such a jerk.
Yeah.
We have an opportunity to see each other as humans and to begin with that place in mind.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's so interesting that Dar brought up this idea of trauma caused, right? And I think we have all three of us have worked on this area of being trauma informed, and it's so fascinating. Not fascinating. It's not the right word, but trauma is everywhere in all of your teams and all of the people on your team. we bring an incredible amount of baggage to the table every day, and even though we think we don't, because we're there's so many stories going on in your head. You know, you get to the office and there's probably 50 stories happening amongst your team. It can even be small. So, yeah.
And so maybe that's a good place for us to end up, is to, in all of this, recognizing that it can be damaging, that it can damage your reputation, it can damage you as a leader, but to begin with some generosity of good intent on all sides, and to begin the conversation from there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's a great place to end, and to remind ourselves that we have the opportunity inside of us to be that leader that we want to be. And it's okay to own. In fact, it's more than okay to own your actions, right? That's what a true leader owns, their actions. And, you know, here, our work with whole human coaching, and even as here at Getting to Unstuck, we really want to reclaim a world that works and to reclaim our humanity in those spaces. And that means that we are all connected, and we can't deny that. But in fact, we find the way forward by recognizing that and by holding ourselves accountable. So thank you for joining.
That went fast. I want to keep talking, because this is a really important topic, and I underestimated it, actually. And I think we could probably have a few more conversations about this. And thank you.
Fits under well-being.
Exactly. Health and well-being.
Okay. Well, like, subscribe, share, comment. We are all here working on bringing humanity back into the workplace, and humanity back into our lives. And if we do that, I think we can really create a movement around it. So like, subscribe. We're everywhere, LinkedIn and TikTok and every single channel that you can imagine. So like, share, subscribe, and let's keep the conversation going.
Don't forget that we also have our Wheel of Life. If you have not yet checked out the Wheel of Life, you can find it right over at wholehumancoaching.com. It'll take about 2 minutes. It's a really easy assessment that can help you get a much clearer picture of some areas that you may want to focus on in the days ahead, because you're worth it. And a life that is balanced is a fantastic life to live. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you again soon back here in Getting to Unstuck. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Oh,